Minister of Defence Mohammed Badaru has reaffirmed the federal government's commitment to resolving the ongoing farmer-herder clashes in Plateau State. Speaking in Jos during a meeting with opinion leaders, traditional rulers and security agencies, Badaru expressed deep concern over the continued violence despite efforts to address the issue. The meeting took place at the 3-division headquarters in Bassa local government area. Badaru warned against partitioning communities along ethnic and religious lines, describing such divisions as disastrous. He emphasized the need for harmonious coexistence and vowed that the government would not entertain demands for segregation. And to further discuss this, I'm joined by security expert and public affairs analyst Alex Okonkwo. Mr. Okonkwo, you're welcome. Thank you very much. Good evening.
Good evening, and good to be here.
Thank you. Now, so what's at stake for national security with the ongoing farmer-herder clashes? What are the potential long-term consequences for regional stability?
Well, I don't call them long-term consequences anymore because we're already in them. It's been going on for a while, and I'm sure you know the origin of these things are not today. In fact, in West Africa, in the West African region, it dates as far back as the 18th century. So it's nothing new. It's just that they were being solved before because we had a more traditional state. So when the cleric in the 18th century spoke to people, people listened to them. When the traditional ruler in the 19th century spoke to people, they had more power. As we move into a more advanced state of living together, conflicts are difficult to solve at that level. So what is happening is just we're living the consequences of what I would call regulatory deficiencies over the years. Because there has been an absence of proper care for this kind of problem, we are now seeing it crystallizing, I would say, from a security point of view. It means the kind of differences we have between people that are, most of the herders are Muslim Fulanis, let me just put it that way to make it simple, while the farmers are non-Fulani Christians, so Hausas and all that. So you see, already it is separated on religious and tribal lines. So things should have been done properly initially, and we're just having to do it now. In fact, what the Minister of Defense said is the proper thing to say. We should even change our discourse by saying it's Fulani herdsmen or Hausa farmers. That already in itself does not allow the crisis to go on a platform where we can solve it. We are already tribalizing the problem when it is not properly tribalized. It's not really tribalized. It's more like a struggle for resource. Well, so we're already in it. We're already in the problem. It's not long term at all. We're already in it.
Okay. It's a very interesting dynamic here because we need both, whether the farmers or the herders. So the question is, how can government actually balance the needs of both the farmers and the herders at the same time to prevent any further violence? Are there any successful international examples that we can take from?
Okay, yes. I don't know. Well, I don't know if Nigerians know this region very well. All the part of India that is Himalaya, that has to do with Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, these are mostly farmers. We're talking about over 35 million farmers. But within those circles, they have herders. They have a lot of herders as well, because you must have seen in films and all that, they do a lot of sheep, they do a lot of cotton, they do a lot of wool, and so they have a lot of herders as well. What has happened over the years is that, and this region, I use India particularly because they are similar to us. It's multi-tribal. They have the Bilis and they have the Mundas. So it's not as if they have one tribe. They're also multi-religional, so multi-religious. So you have Christians, they have Hindus. And so it's very similar to what we have. What they've decided to do over the years since the early 2000s was to have groups that are, composed of both farmers and herders, to now work with their rangers. India is a very good reputation of rangers, because of Himalaya. They are quite used to mountain zones, unlike we are here. So they have a ranger group. It's militarized, though. What I'm talking about is purely militarized. They are armed, they use technology and all that. You know how strong India is in technology. So what they have done is to map out zones where herders can go with their cattle, with their sheep and all that, other animals, that don't interfere with farmers. Because as much as just what you said now, there is that conflict between, we still want to have food, crops to eat, but we still need livestock. So the two of them are two evils that we require. We cannot do without one without the other. In fact, even the cattle needs to eat crops to be able to grow so that we can now further eat the cattle. So everything is intertwined. What the Indians have done, and is beginning to get some result now, is that they have mapped out, and this thing is using GPS. We're talking of using technology. It's not just by government policy. They are actually using their IT and AI into it. They have mapped out zones where once the herders are trespassing, they know immediately, they are informed immediately that they are trespassing these zones. And these are controlled by rangers who already have details of all the headers. In India, we're talking of headers that have, some of them have over 20,000 head of cattle. But it's not our size, though. These are huge, farmlands and all that. So it is a way to do that. Technology has to come in. But the first thing is to detribalize the problem. We cannot keep saying Hausas are doing this, Fulanis are doing this. Once we keep doing that, it crystallizes the problem because the next generation of herders are already creating enemies where they didn't really have enemies. You get what I'm trying to say? The young herder who is working with his father today already sees the Hausa farmer as his enemy. Meanwhile, it's not really true. You see what I'm saying? So there's a lot of, it's a holistic, the approach has to be holistic. I thank God that the Minister of Defense is finally saying something that some of us have been saying for years. It's not about attacking. The army cannot do everything. We have to get rangers on ground, trained rangers who speak the local languages, but we have to get technology to help us. We also have to get these nomadic people to gradually realize that nomadism in terms of farming, will have to reduce. We would have to gradually take them out of that and bring them into more sedentary kind of farming, where they will stay in farmlands and grow their livestock.
Well, I hear that, Mr. Alex. Detribalize the situation and then include technology. I want to say thank you very much for joining us this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.